Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from the beautiful Cedar Botanical Garden in Kernersville. We'll tell you more about them later on, and later on, by the way, is when the roundtable shows up. We'll get into all sorts of controversial issues, so stay tuned for that. And some great guests, important information between now and then, so be with us for the whole half hour. Where we want to start, though, I mean, you hear a lot about getting adults vaccinated and how we're doing that with that. Let's talk about getting our kids vaccinated. And we could have no better expert than this gentleman with us right now. On my right, Dr. Larry Givner. He's pediatric infectious disease specialist at Wake Forest Baptist Health's Brenner Children's Hospital. Welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
By way of Baylor, University of Maryland, and Temple, by the way, and
yes,
now
sir.
Wake Forest. So you must be very conflicted when it comes, when teams are playing. The FDA recently gave parents some good news regarding vaccines, and I've sort of let the cat out of the bag. But what was the good news?
The Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine was studied in a phase 3 clinical trial in thousands of children 12 to 15 years of age, and shown to be 100% effective in preventing COVID-19 disease. There were no safety concerns seen, and the vaccine, post-vaccine symptoms were the same as an older person.
Yeah, I want to get in depth a little bit about that, because there are some parents that say, look, I don't care if it's been approved. Well, adults went through the same thing. I don't care if it's been approved. There might be something that's not safe with it. How do you reassure a parent?
The COVID-19 vaccine, as I said, has been found to be very, very safe in children as it was in adults.
Well, the adults, let's go over some of the side effects and things. And you sort of started to touch on that. I know that, when I had my shot and my wife, we had the soreness of the arm. I had fatigue the next day, so adults react differently, even when it's not severe. Are these the very same things that kids, preteens that get the vaccine, are they going to go through the same kind of thing?
Yes, they generally have the same post-vaccination symptoms. We call them that, not side effects, because they're expected. And it may have, at the vaccination site, swelling, redness, pain. And then systemic symptoms may include fatigue or tiredness, headache, fever, chills, muscle aches, etc.
Early on, when we were being schooled by Dr. Fauci and you and others about COVID-19, what we would continue to hear is, if children get it, it won't be as severe as adults. So, of course, we focus on the elderly population. We did that first, and then healthcare workers. Parents, there are some parents I've heard say, look, I heard about the vaccine for kids, but if it's not as severe in kids, do I really need to have my child vaccinated? What's your argument?
Well, I can tell you as a pediatric infectious disease specialist that COVID-19 disease is not always mild in adolescents. In fact, for unknown reasons, the incidence of COVID-19 disease is increasing in adolescents, as is their need for hospitalization, for intensive care, and for mechanical ventilation. So it's not always a mild disease. It can affect the lungs, and that can be very severe, resulting in the need for mechanical ventilation.
Doc, what about kids with chronic conditions, asthma, things like that? Should they absolutely stay away from being vaccinated?
No, those persons should be especially sure to be vaccinated, because those with underlying medical conditions are at the higher risk for developing severe COVID-19 disease should they get it. So those groups should be sure to be vaccinated.
Now, this may be an unfair question, but it's been on a lot of people's minds too. What about if a child gets vaccinated, is this going to protect him or her against these variant strains that we're hearing about coming from Europe?
We're still learning a lot about the effect of the vaccine in preventing disease from the variant strains, but the vaccine will prevent a large number of cases that otherwise would occur, of course, without vaccination.
And you mentioned, of course, this is the Pfizer vaccine only so far. Very quickly, where can parents get the vaccinations? Where can they be done?
At Wake Forest Baptist Health and Brenner Children's Hospital, we are giving the vaccine. Appointments can be taken for those 12 to 15 years of age, those even older. We urge everyone to get the COVID-19 vaccine. You can look at our website, which is wakehealth.edu/vaccine, or call in at 336-70 COVID, 33670
Yeah, I'm
COVID.
going to mention that again up on screen. wakehealth.edu/vaccine has a lot of good information for you. Doc, I appreciate all you're doing for the community and helping everyone and educating folks about the necessity for this. And thanks for everything you've been doing.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about it.
I hope you come back sometime. We'll be right back after this. Back now on Triad Today, and let's talk business, shall we? And this is something that's going to help businesses and entrepreneurs, and we turn to an expert in the field. Qasim Mohsen, manager of Venture Winston Grants. Welcome to the program for the first time.
Thank you for having me.
And you said you love the garden, so we appreciate that. You'll have to come out and see it later on, too.
Absolutely, it's a beautiful day.
Remind our viewers, because I know originally your partner in crime and our friend Karen Barnes was going to come, and she had to go out of town. But she's been on before touting all these great programs and things you're doing, and I want you to do it for us, too. Just remind people what Venture Winston Grants are all about.
Sure. So the Venture Winston Grants is a private-public partnership between the city of Winston-Salem and local business leaders. And what we've been able to do is put together a program that is going to award 15 to 20 startups $50,000 in non-dilutive grant funding so that they can get their idea or their product to the next level.
So what do I do? I mean, if people are going to hear what you just said, they're going to key in on the $50,000 grant. Oh boy, I want to go for that. But it's not that simple. I mean, you're saying they have to present an idea. I mean, what's the process?
Sure. So they can go to venture-winston.org, and we've got a completely online process. So we ask them pretty much anything that you would expect to be asked by an investor. One of the things that we want these businesses to do is kind of go through the thought process of identifying their market, talk about their opportunity, sort of the size of the revenue, but also how are they going to create opportunity and lift up the community here in Winston-Salem. So we're specifically looking for startups in 3 segments. First is agriculture and food. The second is the future of aviation and aerospace. And then the third is the future of healthcare. And the way that we came about these 3 sectors is we did an asset inventory of the wonderful things we have going on in Winston-Salem. And we identified essentially, what do we want to be when we grow up? We've got Charlotte, which is focused on fintech. We've got life sciences over in the Triangle, but we really believe, based on some of the underutilized assets, such as the airport here, Smith Reynolds Airport, that we can actually be the leader in aviation and aerospace.
Sure.
We can be the leader in healthcare, even in North Carolina, and then food and agriculture is something that is very, very important to North Carolina as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
And so, we're looking to identify the future builders in those particular areas.
Speaking of the future, what kind of progress have you been making with the program and the recipients of the grants, and what are the next milestones? Where are you?
Sure. So applications close on June 30th. We've received over 400. So I woke up today, my phone's buzzing every second. 400.
That was me calling.
400,
yeah.
415 by the last time I checked. And so, of those we're seeing, of course, across all the sectors. One of the things I'm really proud of is we brought in a local North Carolina advocacy group called Equity Over Everything. And they did an equity audit of all of our entire process, from the application to who we're putting on the selection committee to how we're messaging and marketing. And so what we're finding is we've got folks from all over the spectrum, male, female, Black, Indigenous, white, Latino.
Age range, or mainly younger people?
Young, old. I think, the average age of an entrepreneur is around 40. And so we're seeing folks from, all over the age spectrum as well, different abilities. It's kind of amazing to see, and it's just a testament to the work that we've done on the equity side from the very beginning.
And you're going to give away how many grants now?
So 15 to 20 each year.
15 to 20, and you said you had 400 and what?
410 applications.
Oh, man.
That are open. So we got a lot of work to do.
Okay. Oh, I don't envy your job there. All right, up on screen. You've already alluded to this, but let's put it up on screen. Venture-Winston.org is a good website, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then also I want to do a shout out to David Mounts and Shannon and everybody, their team at Inmar Intelligence, for suggesting this and helping to support the program, www.inmar.com. They've always been supportive, and in about 10 seconds, can you say why that's important?
Sure. So, Inmar is a pillar of the community. They employ so many people here, and they do great things in the community, and they've been amazing. Part of the reason why we've had such an incredible response is because they've kind of put the power of their marketing genius behind this program.
Right.
And it's just been incredible. So, we're looking to go onward and upward from this year. It's our inaugural year. So, year 2, year 3, we may be looking at 1,000 grants. I don't know. I'm going to need some help.
That'll be great. As soon as we leave here, I'm gonna go call him 400 times as soon as I leave here. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. We'll be right back. Today, I'm so glad we can spend a few minutes with this guest. She's been with us before, and we're always glad we can steal a few minutes of her time because she does so much for so many people. And we're welcoming Christy Sharpa, who is Senior Director of Practice Management at Mountain Valley Hospice and Palliative Care. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back.
Appreciate it.
Just for folks that maybe didn't see you on the program some months before and aren't familiar, maybe they just moved into the area, how would you describe what the Hospice Advanced Cardiac Care program is all about?
Well, we're taking our hospice population of folks who have advanced heart failure or problems with their heart and really focusing in on how we can really expertly manage their symptoms, give them a little extra special attention, and really our primary goal is to help them be as well as possible, as comfortable as possible, and to be able to stay home and out of the hospital.
Now, why is the focus on heart failure patients? Why such a focus on that now?
Because heart failure is the #1 leading cause of death across America, and so many of those patients miss out on their hospice benefit. So we're really working hard to bring attention to that and help these people get the care that they need and live as long and well as they can.
I mean, since you mentioned how widespread this problem is, who among that group is qualified to get into your program?
So certainly patients who are appropriate for hospice care who have been optimally managed by their cardiologist with the appropriate medications, but they're still finding themselves in and out of the ER and having a lot of symptom burden, trouble breathing, chest pain, fluid buildup, things like that, where they're really losing a lot of life quality. And we can help manage that and navigate that a bit.
Now, you mentioned a cardiologist or their own doctor, so I'm going to just ask you this straight out. If someone is under your care, for hospice and palliative care, can they still continue to work with their own cardiologist?
They can, yes. There's times when folks find that that doesn't become necessary anymore. There's a partnership there. But there's other times when folks might say, you know, I'm close with my cardiologist. I want him to remain part of my care. And in those cases, it's absolutely appropriate, and we welcome that.
Right. And of course, you get families involved on these decisions. Of course, on the hospice side, we talk about families making a decision to receive hospice care. And this is a little bit different because you're trying to, as you said, improve quality of life early on, right?
Absolutely, yes. There's research that proves that folks will live longer and better if they start their hospice care earlier.
Even with a chronic illness, that's true.
Absolutely, yep.
We didn't rehearse this. I'll put you on the spot. What's gratifying to you about working with patients and families?
Well, in this particular specialty, people are afraid of serious illness and end of life all across the world and medical care, and for folks that specialize in this, you know, we're moving in when everyone else is moving out. And we believe there's always something more that can be done. And so to see people genuinely live longer and better and meet those goals in life, and if it is their final chapter, to close it in a meaningful way with their family, there's nothing else more gratifying.
Well, I just think what you're doing is great. Before time gets away from me, I want to put this up on screen. www.mtns, it stands for Mountain, of course, valleyhospice.org, MTN, mountainvalleyhospice.org, or you can call 888, which is a toll-free number, 789-2922. That's 888-789-2922 to get more information for you. If you're someone who has a loved one with a chronic condition or qualifies on this, you can get in touch with them through that number. But check out the website and read about that too. And of course, you have the new Winston-Salem office that's helping with people if they want to meet there. And I just thank you for all you're doing for so many people.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're going to come back sometime?
Yes.
All right. We'll be right back. Triad Today, and we're going to title this segment, Two Attorneys and an Artist. It's kind of like a TV pilot show we're doing. It's a good name there. Anyway, I'm going to introduce everybody to you right now. We've got a lot to talk about. On my immediate right, our good friend David Daggett, attorney with Daggett Schuler. He brought along his partner, of course. Griff Schuler is here with us, and the two of them brought a special guest. Samuel Roca is a recent graduate of R.J. Reynolds High School, and we welcome you to the program, sir.
Thank you.
We're going to find out why you're here in just a second. But David, let me start with you. Let's remind people quickly, although we talked about this a few weeks ago, there has been a changeover from where you were doing the Safe Sober prom night into Safe Sober. Remind us what it's all about, how it's changed.
So this is the 31st year of the Safe Sober program. There hasn't been proms the last couple of years, so we've enhanced the program to Safe Sober. You can go to safesober.com. And what we're doing this year is hitting all the high school seniors at their graduations. 15,000 of these t-shirts.
Yeah, hold that up there to the camera. That's, yeah, Safe Sober.
Designed by Samuel.
Wow.
His name is on the back of all these t-shirts.
Cool.
He's a student at R.J. Reynolds High School and art class at the Career Center, so we have
Right.
both on there. And pretty excited, great young man.
I'm going to get to Samuel in just a second. Griff, the t-shirt design contest has really been a big deal every year. Now, how do y'all pick a winner?
Well, Jim is completely blind, so we get the entries in. They're scanned in, and then there's a committee that reviews all of them, and the committee includes marketing and advertising professionals that assist in the selection process, but it's completely anonymous, and Samuel won.
Samuel won. Now, Samuel, how did you hear about the contest?
I've known about the contest for a while now. Ever since like freshman year of school, I would always see them walking through lunch, and I'll see them set up right. And then I went to Career Center for a graphic design class, and then that's where the contest was introduced.
Now, how did you find out that you won the contest?
I found out on the day of announcing it. I found out through being in class, and then I had a call. It was very strange calling me into school, and I'm like, I'm not going to school if I don't have to. But and then my mom came in my room, so it became very serious. I'm like, okay, I'm getting up, and I passed by the front of the Career Center, and that's where I saw the setup. I'm like, that's how I knew I won.
That's right,
Yeah, he was scheduled for video class.
A surprise presentation with the mayor, dignitaries, police officers.
Wow.
It was
It
really
was a
fun.
big deal, and he was very surprised.
That is. It can be very daunting, Samuel. I know one time Griff and David and the mayor showed up in my bedroom at 3 in the morning, and it was very disconcerting. Now, what does it mean to have your design on that? I mean, you got your name on it. The design is going to be seen by thousands and thousands of people. We're showing it here. What does that, seriously, what does that mean to you?
Well, I've been creating art for a while now, and having my stuff out there, like for everybody to see, is pretty cool. And having my name on there, so it has a direct person, it's pretty cool because I love my work getting out there and getting my appreciation that I need.
And now, what are your? I assume your plans are going to have something to do with art and design. What are you headed for?
I'm going to Charlotte, University of Charlotte, for graphic design as I'm pursuing a career in graphic design.
Yeah. Well, David, I know that you're very proud of Samuel, what he's been able to do.
Yeah, now he got a $1,000 scholarship along with winning this.
Wow.
And I will also say, I get to make the phone call to the parents beforehand to let them in so they can come to the surprise. They have to pledge secrecy. Samuel's mother was the most excited mom I've ever talked to.
That's great.
And that was my favorite day of the whole year.
Griff, this, I know you've sort of tracked over the years, you and David, the success of the program, Safe Sober Prom Night, now Safe Sober, and what all this means. It means a lot to the students, right?
It sure does, and it creates a lot of excitement. It creates positive peer pressure. It's been great this year. Again, trying to transition away from just proms and being able to go to the graduation festivities and be able to connect up with the students again and see them getting really excited about the design. We've had a lot of students tell us specifically that they love Samuel's design this year. It's been a big hit.
Boy, I do too. It's a great design. Up on screen before we lose time here, daggett.schulerlaw.com or 724-1234 if you should need some assistance in that arena. But really importantly, I want you to check out safesober.com, safesober.com. And we're so proud of, David, what you and Griff, seriously, what you guys do and your team for the community. And Samuel, congratulations again on your work. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be right back after this. Go on Triad Today, and before we get to the round table, a quick shout out to the good folks at Senior Botanical Garden for hosting us here. Try out their website, look at it, but better than that, come on out to the garden. You have your weddings, receptions, meetings. It's a great place. And now, To our roundtable on my immediate right, but always a political left, Ogie Overman, the great broadcaster and journalist, socially distanced behind him. We held over David Daggett from his segment with Griff and Samuel, talking about Safe Sober, and then, of course, Keith Granberry, founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Guys, in an effort to get more young adults vaccinated, President Biden is partnering with Anheuser-Busch to offer free beer to those who get a shot. At a time when binge drinking and drunk driving is still a big problem among young people, as David well knows, does this campaign send the wrong message, Ogie?
Well, I'm not crazy about it, but it's just a shame that we have to bribe people to get vaccinated. It's not as bad as West Virginia's giving out guns, for crying out loud.
Guns, yeah. David, I mean, on a serious note, I mean, you fought against drunk driving and whatever. Does this send the wrong message?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of these sort of gimmicks in general. But the flip side is we got to get people vaccinated if we're going to get over the hump and get past this thing.
Keith Granberry.
I don't think a beer is going to get somebody in the seat to get vaccinated. A job, maybe, a real job, but not a beer.
All right. Speaking of vaccinations, a former Durham County deputy is suing the sheriff's office for requiring that all employees get a COVID vaccination. When the deputy refused, he was subsequently fired. Now he's going to sue. Who wins this lawsuit, Ogie?
I think the Sheriff's Department. I think it ought to be mandatory. Any law enforcement officer, they're in contact with the public all the time. Get the vaccination, for crying out loud.
Mr. Daggett.
I agree with Ogie 100%, but the interesting legal issue is the Sheriff's Department's a governmental organization. The Sheriff's Department is one of the only organizations that's specifically mentioned in the Constitution. Can the government force that? If it was a private organization, a non-constitutional organization, I think it's an interesting legal question.
Interesting. Keith.
I think the guy who's suing, even though I think he should be fired for that, but I think you cannot, if it's not mandated for the government to give these shots out, how are you going to fire someone when something is not mandated? I don't know how they do
Right.
that.
Just as a disclaimer on this, as we know, the argument that a lot of people are using, among other things, is that it's still not experimental necessarily, but the COVID vaccinations are in emergency use, not permanently approved by the FDA. So a lot of people are sort of standing behind that, for good or bad. A Virginia teacher was suspended for speaking out against a school policy that requires educators to refer to their students by the pronouns which reflect their gender identity. Now, this teacher had religious objections. He thought a boy ought to be addressed as sir or young man or whatever, and a girl the same way according to their biological gender. A judge has since reinstated the teacher, but the question is, was the suspension and firing justified to begin with, or was it a violation of teachers' freedom of speech? Ogie.
You know, they always hide behind religion when they have these ideas that go against the mainstream of society. It's always some religious objection, some obscure passage in the Bible.
But Ogie, I wouldn't call all these 15 different names of gender identities pronouns. I wouldn't call that mainstream yet.
Why couldn't you say girl or boy, man or woman? If you were to identify with a woman, call her a girl. Come on.
All right,
What's
David.
the problem with that?
Yeah,
really?
it's interesting. I don't think it's a free speech issue. I do think that society is continuing to evolve and unfold on these issues, and we need to evolve and unfold with them, both as a practical matter in the classroom and as a legal matter in the courts. When I was a child, we wouldn't be talking about it. Today we are. When I was a child, there were some race issues we wouldn't talk about. Today, thank goodness we are. So we continue to evolve and shape society, and I think that's a good thing.
And Keith, some of the folks who are transgender or identify with a different gender want to be called they, referred to as they, in a plural, or I don't know. It's what are your thoughts on this?
I think I want to go with Dave when he talked about race and kind of bring this home. I mean, black people now like to be referred as blacks. Before they started Negroes. I mean, everything evolves. So society is evolving, and I think this person should be evolving with them, and they should not have been reinstated. Absolutely not.
All right. Last week at a graduation ceremony for Asheboro High School, a student was not allowed to receive his diploma because he came up on stage draped in a huge Mexican flag. And of course, wearing a flag violates dress code. You can't do that. You can write things on the mortarboards, but not wear anything else. Some students said the dress code is a racist policy, but the fact is, they gave him the diploma privately a couple days later. But who do you side with on this, Ogie?
The kid, he's a good kid, Jim. This guy, he was trying to bring unity, saying, look, I'm a Mexican kid, but I'm an American, and I'm happy to be an American, and I'm glad I graduated from an American school, but I'm also proud of my Mexican heritage. He's a good kid.
All right, David.
I think the tough thing about this, I side with the kid, but the tough thing about this is where are you going to draw the lines? And at some point you have to. You want some dignity and some unity in graduation combined with the rights to self-expression. And I think it's a wavering line that's difficult. The school overreacted, I believe.
Mr. Granberry.
I don't think the kids should have had a whole flag on. I mean, really. I mean, you have a uniform graduation. Put something on that celebrates that, but a flag, what? There's Africans that are in the school. There are all various other groups. Should everyone come with their own unified message?
Yeah, I agree with Keith in the sense that, you know, if you know what the rules are and you break them, there got to be some kind of consequence, but I'm an old fuddy-duddy who knows. All right,
Wear a pin.
Wasn't in the
a
dress
hat.
code, though. Flag wasn't in the dress code.
Pin, hat.
That's right. Finally, guys, a new survey published in Herald Weekly says that only 40% of millennials buy and use napkins. The other 60% mainly just wipe their hands and mouth on their shirt. Guys, do you still use napkins or do you use your shirt sleeve? Ogie?
I have become my parents, Jim. What is this generation coming to?
David.
Hey, where you?
You can use that.
Men should
Do you
wear
share?
handkerchiefs.
That's right.
Sure? No, I can't believe how many times I've agreed with Ogie today. But since I've been married, I use a napkin.
All right, Keith.
I use my hand. I'm a manly man.
Keith's
Who
been
needs
watching
napkins?
He's been watching too many of these old cowboy movies, like this. Women don't like that, Keith.
I'm a manly
All right.
man, Jim.
Yeah, manly
You
man.
don't
Fine.
need napkins
All
or
right, well,
forks or spoons.
that's all the nasty time we have. Oh, except for this, you might have heard that there are several pages of Sir Isaac Newton's scientific papers are going up for auction at Christie's in London next week. Now, a lot of experts say, well, those scientific notes of Sir Isaac Newton will go for well over $1 million. Others say, no, it's going to be like 800,000, proving once and for all that whatever goes up must come down. It's a gravity thing. Did you get that?
Semi-clever.
I don't like all three of you. All right, we'll be back next week.